So today's video, what we're going to do is we're going to try and build an evaporator for sap, for sap boiling, so for making maple syrup. We've seen some people make these online in the past on YouTube. Basically, you can buy these kits that convert a 55-gallon drum into a wood stove, basically. So you'll put a door on the front, there's a chimney spot on the side, on top. And then there's some legs. They don't show it in the picture here, but there's some legs that'll go on to the side of the barrel to make it stand up. And so the goal for us is to put that chimney, the wood stove together, and then we'll take it outside in the, when we need a boil, and we'll just run it outside. What we're gonna do is we're gonna cut a couple holes in the top, and we'll set metal pans in there, and that way, we can boil the sap. This should be a cleaner and easier way to boil than the way we've done it in the past, which I can put a video somewhere in here when we made it last time. I'll put a link up in the corners. But basically, when we did it in the past, we did it over an open fire, and the syrup, came out great, but it does have a little bit of a smoky flavor, which isn't terrible, but it just requires a couple extra strainings. So we've heard that this is a better way to do it. We're going to give it a try this year. Now, you might be wondering why we're doing this in February and not in March, because that's when we're going to need this. But if I take you outside, it has been absolutely balmy. I don't know how else to put it. Really warm. It's currently 50 degrees today, I think. We still have a good amount of snow in the shady areas. So like this is the backyard, and the trees cast a lot of shade back here. So we have a lot of snow. We're basically into mud season in the driveway. In town, there's basically no snow anywhere. And we go over here, we'll see if we got any sap running. So this guy's got a little bit in the bottom, not much, just a teeny little bit. I don't know how much sap's actually going to run. I've seen that a lot of the commercial operators, when you live in a town where they do a lot of maple syrup production, which is huge here, you'll see these trucks driving around constantly during sugar season, where the trucks are just chock full of sap. They have these big plastic containers in the back. I gotta see, this guy's got a good amount in there. I don't know if you can see that moving around. But this is just a day, and you can see it's dripping off of there. I'm getting a good steady flow, so that's good. But yeah, these trucks are just running around town with tons and tons and tons of sap already, so it made me think that I might need to do ours. These blue buckets are pretty good because you can see, this one's very small amount of sap in there. I think that one over there might have some extra in it because I can kind of see it. So let's take a walk over there and we'll take a look. Well, you can see even like the stream is running clear. Everything's just melting, and we're supposed to have a little bit more warm weather for the next couple days, and then after that it's going to get cold again. So what I'm thinking is that if we don't get enough sap to boil, which is possible that we don't get enough sap to boil, and that's okay, what we'll do if we don't get enough sap to boil is we'll just put the sap in the freezer until we do get a real flow going. But yeah, look, you can see it's going here. Got some sap dripping off right there. So we put the taps in 2 days ago. And yeah, it's already started to flow. It's crazy. We're in the very beginning of February. This is the first week of February. But as things change, and summer and spring come a little earlier, fall comes a little later, it seems, or winter comes a little later. Just kind of things we have to deal with. The dates of when people used to put, their taps in and start sugaring have changed. So we're going to adjust to it as well. All right, so the first thing I did is I unpackaged it all. We've got the legs, the chimney flue connection, a handle there. And then I set the door where I think I want it to be on the top. So remember, the door is going to be in the front. There's going to be legs here. And then the chimney will stick up there. So what I did is I laid it all out because basically we have to cut a hole. We have to cut a hole for this and for the vents. So I laid it here. I marked all of the holes with marker so that I know exactly where I had it setting. And then I opened it up. It's just a metal door. as you can see here. So I opened it up. When it comes screwed down, so you have to loosen that screw up, open it, and then what we do here is I marked out the inside of the hole. So this is where I'm basically going to cut my hole, and then I'll do a jaunt down right here so that I can get these vents. The vents open up so that you can let air into the front. So I marked the inside of these as best I can. I also put a mark on each side here so that I know I shouldn't go any lower than that across. So basically if I cut down in here, it's not going to be a big problem. As long as I stay on the inside of this line and the inside of that line and stay above this line, right, then I'll only be touching this area, which is where we want to have the opening. So I think this is set. I'm ready to get out my grinder and see if I can't cut these out. Give that a little bit of a work here. I'll come back and show you what it looks like once I've cut it out, and then we'll talk about how we attach the door frame here. All right, I took the door off now just to show you kind of the outline. So here's the outline of the door, the opening where we'll put wood in. And then this is those lines I was talking about. So you can see there's a line here and there's a line there. So basically I want to stay inside these lines. I can go all the way up to the opening there. And then you'll see there's a line there and there's a line there. So I'll make a line across here. And basically, as long as I stay above that and inside, you know, between these two lines here, I'm totally good, right? I don't want to cut out over here or over here because that's where my mounting screws are going to be. But anything inside here basically will be fine because that's where the vent goes. So we'll cut this out. We'll cut this out so that it'll be a square with a square with a little rectangle connection cut out, and then we should be good to go. All right, so I took out the angle grinder, put a metal cutting blade on it, took it to the top here, and went ahead and cut out my hole. So as you can see, I mean, it's not perfectly lined up right now, and it's perfectly lined up, which is much closer there. You can see it's a pretty good fit, This guy opens up and you can see that there's some openings there where air is going to get through. It's not a perfect opening. Like I could have cut it over a little further here and a little further there. But this is really just to allow air to come in, and we'll definitely be able to get air in through that. So that's pretty good. I'm thinking that looks like it's going to work. Go ahead and get ready to mount that up here in a minute. So the next thing that we have to do is we have to put the legs on. The instructions, if you follow them, tell you to go ahead and put the flue on first. But it seems to me that it'll be easier to work on this thing while it's laid down, because remember, it has to be, in that orientation, so it'll be laying down. It'd be easier to work on it if the legs were on it because it won't be rolling all over the place. So I'm gonna mount the legs first, and then I'll put the front on, and then I'll cut the hole for the flue, and I'll put the flue on. So next step is to just find an orientation for the legs that I like. Basically, I just want to kind of line it up under the door there so that it looks pretty straight. And then we'll put one on the front and one on the back here, and that'll give us our feet. So they'll probably be down somewhere about right there. What I think I'll do is I'll draw a line down from the middle of that hole. One nice thing is that this is on a lid. So if I am off by a little bit, I could always open this and then rotate the lid just a little bit to get that to be perfectly straight, because that lid does move. But I think, like right about there should be pretty good. It doesn't have to be exactly perfect, right? As long as you can still open the door and close the door and it functions is what really is going to matter. So yeah, I think we'll probably put one right about there. That seems to me like the right spot, or maybe up a little further up towards the top, but yeah, somewhere like right there. And then we'll put another one right here. We'll get those mounted in, and then we'll be able to set this thing down on the ground and let it stand. And then once it stands, we can cut the hole in the top over here for the flue. And then it'll be ready. What we'll have to do is probably just dry it out a little bit. Once it's dried, throw some wood in there, and you got to do this outside because you really don't want any of these chemicals, like all this paint, to be breathing that in. So we'll do this out, pretty far out in the yard. I'll probably do it somewhere over there, pretty far away. You can hear the geese out there yelling for me. But yeah, somewhere over there probably. we'll let it burn. You know, we'll get it really, really hot. We'll burn off all the paint. Basically, that's what you want to do, is get it all burnt off so that it's nice and, you know, all those chemicals that are in the paint are burnt out. And then once that's done, you will be able to cut the hole in the top to put the trays so that we can, you know, cook the sap in there. One final thing that we'll probably do is we'll probably put some fire bricks in the bottom once we get ready to use this. And that's just to hold the fire up and keep it flat so that the fire is not sitting on the metal. If the fire is sitting on the metal can rot quickly. So if you put some fire bricks in there, from what I've read, it makes the barrel last a lot longer. So, all right, well, I'm gonna get started on mounting the legs and I'll come back when that's done. All right, so legs are in. Took the top off temporarily just so I could reach inside because it's kind of difficult to get to the back side of those bolts with the top on. But you can see that we got 4 bolts in the back there and we got 4 in the front. The first 2 I started out, I did them what I think was the right way, but it's more difficult to put them in this way with the bolt on the inside and the nut facing, you know, in. So on the other ones, I did them the opposite direction. It definitely makes it easier to screw them in from, you know, put the bolt through the metal from the inside to the out, and then just put the nut on top of it. So I don't know, the instructions don't tell you which way to specifically do that. I kind of played around with it a little bit, and I found that it's easier to do it that way. So now that it's together, you can take a look. Got the legs on there. They're nice and straight. So what I did is I put the first one on and then I stood it up, you know, I laid it down. And then I just finagled the other one underneath it to kind of balance it and make sure it was nice and straight. And then I marked my spots. That way you don't have to worry about it being perfectly level. If you try to measure it, you might be off level and the legs might not line up. But if you do it that way, just get one on. Lay it like this, and then slide the other leg underneath it, get it nice and level by the eye test, right? So this is nice and level, it's not wobbly. And then you can just mark the spots and then come back and drill them out. I used a metal bit that I have from a kit from Harbor Freight, works great. And then just, you know, put the bolts through, screwed them in with a screwdriver, and then tighten the backside bolt. When the wife gets home, I'm going to have her help me by putting a wrench on the back of this right here because I can't reach inside and have a wrench on the back there. So I'm going to need somebody to hold that while I reach inside with the screwdriver and tighten it up. But this is good enough for right now, just to continue to assemble it, you know. The legs aren't going anywhere and it's good. So the next step is going to be to put the door on the top here. So I'm going to stand it up. I'm going to put the top back on temporarily. I'll get this door mounted, get it all screwed in, and I'll come back and show you what it looks like. Okay, so we've got the door on. It's all mounted. I basically just went ahead and screwed some holes in all those, you know, marker spots that I had, and then put the screws through and went ahead and mounted bolts on the back. I will say, if you're doing this, make sure you wear your gloves the whole time. The inside of that metal can be sharp, and I took my glove off for 1 second just to reach back to one of the first ones, and of course, I cut my hand, like immediately. So just don't do like I did and take your glove off, because that was a silly mistake. But yeah, it works pretty well. Door closes. The flue is a little tight. I think I'm gonna have to put a little WD-40 on that or something, but it does work. Everything seems to be looking right. Now it's time to start working on the damper and the flue here. So basically what we have to do is get this to the point where we want it to be. I think, we'll probably want it a little bit off of the back, but pretty far to the back of the barrel, right? You want it all the way to the back, because what you want to happen is for cool air to come in the front there, pull across the fire and heat the fire up, and then at the very back, the hot air can release. We'll also probably get a small chimney stack to put on this so that it's up, 4 or 8 feet above the ground, so that the smoke doesn't get into the pans that we'll have mounted right here and right here, because that's where our pans will be mounted for boiling. So yeah, so the next step is just to take this, we're gonna mark these holes, we'll get this all drilled in, and then we've gotta get a 6-inch hole cut here. I don't know exactly how I'm going to do that, to be honest with you. I think I might see what bits I have, but I don't think any of my bits will cut through metal, so I'm going to have to get that figured out, I guess. For right now, if we wanted to, I could take this apart and you could probably trim, draw that circle out pretty perfectly right there if you wanted to. It doesn't really matter, I don't think, as long as you get the hole cut so that the air can come out. I might just try to cut across, cut 2 lines in the metal here and then bend it in, because if I do that, I'll open up enough to where it should let the air out, and then I can still just get these mounted in. I'm gonna take a look at it, see what I can do. I really would prefer not to go buy another bit if I don't have to. And, of course I don't have a 6-inch metal holes, bit, because that's not something I would use very regularly. The other thing that you want to keep an eye on is that it's pretty centered, and as you can see right now, it's not. I need to push it over this way a teeny little bit. The metal itself is actually curved to fit the barrel, which is nice. It is designed for this, so that's good. Yeah, that's pretty good. So that's what we're going to want to do, is pretty much that's it right there. I'm going to go and take a look at what ways I can figure out to cut this hole out. I don't think it has to be perfectly circle, right? As long as the cut area is inside of these marks here, we should have a nice tight seal, and we'll give it a shot. So we're going to try it out without going to buy a 6-inch bit, but maybe you want to buy a 6-inch bit, and if you do this, I'm sure it will be easier to just use a 6-inch bit, but I think I'm just going to use the angle grinder, cut myself across, and then see if I can't just, etch it out a little bit. Okay, so I think I figured out what I can do here. That seems to be working. Basically what I did is I cut this into like a pie, right? I used the angle grinder to cut 8 pieces. So it went across this way and then across that way. And now what I've been doing with that is just bending these up. And if you bend them up like that, you can then get the angle grinder to cut them off. And I've just been doing that around, so you can see right there. It's kind of a rough edge, but remember, there's gonna be a chimney in there. It's not like your hands are ever gonna be in there or anything. And yeah. Get pieces off. So that seems to be working. Sorry for all the noise, but it just started pouring outside. But yeah, so I'm going to continue to do this and get all these pieces cut off, and then I'll come back and we'll get ready to mount that on there. All right, so I think I got the hole cut out perfectly. So let's take a look here. You see I got it all inside the ring there, and they all kind of cut out pretty smoothly. I did have to clean up the edges on a couple of them just a little bit. Like I said, if that was something I would have to put my hand into, I would definitely work to smooth that out even more. But for what we need it for, just to let smoke come out and, escape the chamber in there, this is perfect. So now the next thing we're gonna have to do is get the black marker out, mark these holes, drill them, and then get screws mounted just like we've done for all the rest of the components. So I'm gonna mark those holes, get the drills, get the holes drilled, get the screws mounted, and I'll come back and show you what it looks like. All right, as usual in a home project, my first time doing something, a mistake was made. So the way that I had it cut earlier was I had those lips sticking out. That didn't work because when I tried to put the flue in there, this has to turn, and I wasn't thinking about that. But because it has to turn, it would hit the metal that I had left sticking out in there. So this was a pretty straightforward fix. Now, if you had a hole saw initially, this would not have been a problem. But if you do the route that I did, using an angle grinder, you could run into this problem. So basically, all I had to do was cut some more strips using the angle grinder, right? Just cut little lines to the edge of this. So just chop, 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 chop. And then I don't know if you can make it out here very well, but basically I just came back with a hammer and a screwdriver and kind of popped them straight down. So you can see I made a cut there, I made a cut there, I made a cut there, right? And then basically just bang them down so that they get out of the way. So that works because now if we're looking straight down at it, there's no metal in the way. It's got enough room for the flue to go through. So I'll put this back together. I'll show you what it looks like. And then I think until we get in some dry weather, because I can't go burn it outside in the rain. We don't want rain getting all over the cast iron. But as soon as we get some dry weather, we'll come back out and we'll start it up and see what it looks like burning. I'm gonna order a chimney kit from Amazon probably. Just throw that together, inexpensive. Being that it is outside, otherwise I would go to like the local hardware store and buy it, but it's gonna cost more money. And this is gonna definitely get used outside. So I would prefer to not spend a ton of money on it. Okay, got the flue back put together. You can see it turns, works. It's clear down there. Now it's a little rough. You can see it works better, you know, if you give it a little push on the spring. Yeah, it's just the way that this thing is built, to be honest with you. But that'll still work, you know, the damper is totally moving. It'll be fine. Got the door on, got the legs on. So the door works perfectly well. If you open it like this, you can open it up. You can see inside, close it back, pop that down. This, like I said, is very tight, like really, really tight. I gotta do something to loosen that up because basically right now, I've gotta like smack it to make it move. So if I do that, you know, it moves. But I gotta figure a way to make that better, for sure. I'll figure that out though. And you know, to be honest with you, even if I'll be outside, I'll have a lot of wood. I could always just smack it with wood if I needed to. But still, it should open and close better than that. I think from this perspective at least, this thing, if you were gonna use it as like a camp stove, it would be ready, right? You just put a chimney on it and you're good to go. This kit is pretty easy to put together. This did not take me too long to do. It's pretty easy, pretty straightforward, didn't require any crazy tools. If you had a hole saw, the chimney attachment would definitely be better, right? The chimney mount would be better. So this is the one that I got. I bought this on Amazon like a year ago. I don't have an Amazon referral or anything like that, but I can definitely put a link to this in the description below. It seems to work perfectly fine, you know, for putting it together. We'll see how it works once I burn. I think that there are ways that you could definitely make this a little more airtight. You know, if you were going to use this like inside of a garage or something, I've seen people do that. That seems crazy to me. But if you were going to and you're willing to take a risk, just let me say that I think it's a terrible idea. But if you were going to, you'd probably want to put some sort of seal around the door there because that is not sealed, right? And this is metal that's kind of thin and warped because it's an old barrel. So you're not going to get an airtight seal there. Same thing on this, you're definitely not going to get an airtight seal here. It'll be mostly sealed, but it's not enough that I would feel safe having this in some sort of enclosed area. The instructions even show that people put two of them, you know, they stack them on top of each other. So if I bring these instructions over here, you can see that there's instructions for stacking them. So basically you have this one goes up, there'd be a connector here, it would go into the bottom of the next one, and then they would all, you know, vent out the same. Once again, if you were gonna do that inside of a closed space, I feel like, you know, that'd be really risky. But for using it for like we're gonna cut the two holes in the top and put metal pans on there and use these outside to cook syrup in, you know, to boil down sap to make syrup. I think it's a terrific idea. Okay, the rain is really coming down. It's actually hailing out there right now, which is kind of crazy. I don't know if you can see that bouncing off my car. There's hail coming down. It is like storming out here. February. This is nuts. You know, it's 50 degrees and hailing in February. I don't think the geese mind. They're out there just chilling. But yeah, I'm not loving it. It's not a great time. So once we get some syrup and, or once we get some sap and we can put it in there, we'll give this guy a try. As I said, we'll come back in a couple days when it's dry. We'll burn in here, let it burn off. We'll show you what that looks like. We'll tell you how the burn goes. And I'll order a chimney kit and I'll get that chimney put on there. We'll do a full review after we run this through on sugar season, right after we make some syrup with it. But for right now, you know, we'll finish up this build video by getting the fire burnt, and we'll probably also cut the holes out for the pans. We're still deciding which pans we want to use. The wife wants to use big pans. We have some smaller ones that I think will work perfect. We'll see. I'll probably go with the bigger pans because I usually do what she thinks is best. So we'll get those cut too. It's just going to be the same though, what we did for the door and everything else. We'll just mark a line. We'll cut it out so the pan can sit and the pan can sit. And that way, the fire's underneath it and it'll boil the sap while it's in there. All right, so here we are. We've got a nice day, finally. It's very shiny and sunny. Still have a little bit of snow on the ground, so it should be pretty safe to burn today. I've gone ahead and went to our scrap pile. These are all pieces of pine that were mixed in with some of our wood. Pulled that out. Got some twigs to get this fire started and some smaller pieces. That should be enough. I've added some fire bricks to the bottom. I don't have enough, but Tractor Supply didn't have as many as I needed, so I just took what I could get, and I got 10 of them, or 8 of them. Yeah, 8 of them. So there's 8 in there to protect the bottom. I'll get some more before we burn permanently. I've also got the pans on order. We're gonna have 2 pans, so we're gonna cut a hole here, and we're gonna cut a hole here, and we're gonna set pans in there so they'll burn, so the fire will be under them and help the boil. We do have some sap in the buckets. I don't know if you can make that out. By looking at it, you can tell there's a little bit of sap in there. It froze last night. It's got really, really cold. So it was like in the 40s 2 days ago. And yesterday's high was like 15 or something, 12. It was really cold out of nowhere, but it's only supposed to last a day. The sap should be running again tomorrow. I also got 2 pieces of this 3-foot stack pipe. Haven't assembled it completely. You can see it's still unassembled there. This is just temporary, but the flue control does still work. It turns. So we'll just leave that open. Let this thing burn nice and hot. Basically, the goal right now is to just burn it hot, get any chemicals or anything that were inside burnt out. And then once it's done burning, we'll let it sit out here for a day, cool back down. We'll cover it up with a tarp until we're ready. And then once the pans come in the mail, we'll get holes cut so that they can fit in there. And then we'll be ready for boiling. So I'm gonna get the fire ready to get going, get it lit, and then we'll show you what it looks like. So we got a very minimal fire going in there, just a couple pieces of paper and some twigs to get it started. Get the fire really going here in a couple minutes, but you can see it's already starting to, pull that smoke up. It's okay, it's been burning for about, 15, 20 minutes now. Got an okay fire going in there. It definitely can get hotter. It's not really, really, really hot yet. You can see there's some fire going in there though. So we're just kind of letting that get going. As it goes though, you can already see the top is starting to discolor a little bit. We're getting a little bit of like a brownish haze here. So that's kind of what we want. We want this whole thing to kind of just burn up. And I don't know that the paint will completely burn off. I've seen some where the paint totally goes away. Others just kind of burn off the chemicals in the paint, I guess, and the color will stay behind a little bit. But either way, we're gonna get this thing as hot as we can get it. Let it burn for a couple of hours, and then just keep feeding the fire until, it's burned for, probably at least 4 or 6 hours. We're gonna let it burn for a long time. All right, so we've been burning about an hour now. The barrel is definitely darkened up. The smell of like the burning chemical smell of whatever the paint burning off has kind of went away. You can see areas where it was definitely cooler than others. Like, so right there in the front, it's still kind of light blue. But it's been burning pretty well. I will say one thing I don't love about this is if I close the door completely and leave these guys open, it doesn't seem to be enough airflow to keep the fire burning really hot. So I gotta leave the door ajar just a little bit. So we're gonna look into seeing how we can modify that. All right, so 3-hour update. Been burning pretty solidly for 3 hours, and you can see that the paint is definitely blistering off. It's starting to kind of peel up and bubble up and kind of just flake off in places. Like all along the top here, it looks like it's just kind of flaking off. I'm sure if I took a metal brush to that, it would just, brush right off. So that's good. We're getting that stuff burned out. Other side looks the same. It's very black. The lettering is getting harder and harder to read. So it looks like it's working. So watch for part 2. Part 2 will be me cutting holes in the top here to put the pans in, and then starting to boil some sap. So yeah, come back for that video. I hope you've enjoyed this. If you like watching this video, give me a thumbs up. Please come back for, the second video in this series right here. And hope you have a good day. Bye.